Seth.
Fantastic. Have a good meeting.
You too. Thanks. Okay. So welcome to the July 1st meeting of the Scituate Conservation Commission. There's a couple of quick things to read here. This meeting is being held virtual as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. And two, the town of Scituate's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during our meetings. We ask that all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask our committee members and all that participate to commit to these standards and to support and respect our community. Thank you. So with that, we have an agenda. And wondering if there's any amendments to that agenda.
We do have a request to continue for 280 Central Ave.
Okay.
And probably have a couple open space updates also.
Okay. All right. Those said, can I get a motion to accept the agenda?
I make a motion to accept the agenda as written with the add-ons.
Thank you, Penny.
You're welcome.
So a second?
Second from Jen. Ooh.
I think Brendan had you.
Got it.
All in favor, Richard? Is Richard in tonight?
Yes, I am.
I can hear you vaguely in the background. I think Doug is not here. Jen?
Yep.
I hope she wasn't feeling badly about that. And Eric?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to start with Mass DOT 3A improvements.
Yes, and we have Mike Rieger here to give us an update.
Great, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Mike Rieger from Trans Systems on behalf of Mass DOT. The address of Trans Systems is 101 Arch Street, Boston, Massachusetts. So yeah, so we came before the commission about a month ago and basically explained the project, and I can go over it again, but it's Route 3A improvement project, which includes adding sidewalks and bike lanes and exclusive left turn and center turn lanes between Beechwood Street in Cohasset and Henry Turner Bailey Road in Scituate. That's a high level. So I think everyone's familiar with the project.
Yeah,
so
I think we got up to speed. There may be a couple of members that didn't catch most of it, but I think we got the gist of it, Mike. And then there was some changes, maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I can highlight the changes. Based on last meeting, we went back out to the site and reflagged / refreshed some wetlands on sheet. So the sheet you're looking at here, can you go one more sheet to the sheet 10, please? Sorry, sheet 11. Sheet 11. All right, this is great. So this is the Scituate and Cohasset town line right through the center of the screen. So we refreshed the wetland flags. That's wetland L, which is on the south side of the road or the west side of the road. It's station 1. So the state's installing walls along Route 3A to prevent impacts to wetlands. So that green area you see is a temporary impact to the wetland now. Since we reflagged that wetland, it ended up being closer to the road than when we presented previously. So the impact numbers essentially have been revised since the last meeting for 3 respective wetlands. So we're showing temporary impacts at this location in the green highlighted. Then on the next sheet, Jen.
Scroll to the next one. Okay, got
Yep,
it.
this is perfect. Yep, sheet 12. There's another set of wetlands on the right side of the west side of the street, right at Station 7, where there's more temporary impacts due to a wetland, due to a wall installation. So the temporary impacts are basically so the contractor has means and methods to install the walls. And then on the east side of the wall road there's permanent impacts due to the actual installation of the wall. So the numbers increased on that wetland to that's wetland I. So we have 204 square feet of permanent impacts. And then there's a little bit of a cyan area right to the south of that where we need to replicate wetlands. So we're replicating 459 square feet of wetland replication where those two red maple trees are shown. Right there, yes, right there. So that's pulling off the existing wetland I and increasing the size of it and creating more wetland there to mitigate the impacts. So that's the only changes from before. Before we weren't showing as many impacts to the wetlands.
Okay. Jen, do you want to comment first?
Did we receive any time of year restrictions? I know they mentioned there might be some. I haven't seen anything specific come through.
So we may have time of year restrictions, but that's going to apply to Bound Brook and Cohasset for the outfall. So nothing for Scituate.
Okay. And any concerns with along Henry Turner Road? There's a couple residential houses there. We're not any concern about anybody's, if they happen to have septic systems in the front of their house?
Shouldn't be any concerns from our perspective. There isn't a proposed infiltration basin that meets the required setbacks away from the property lines, which is right on the next sheet, Jen, sheet 13. Shows it a little bit better in the upper left corner there. That's Henry Turner Bailey Road. And those contours on that quadrant, the northeast quadrant, that's a proposed drainage stormwater control measure with a sediment forebay and an infiltration basin. Stormwater treatment. So that's set back from the property lines where those septic tanks are located for the sewer septic tanks.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Starting with the commission, Penny? Are you with us? Maybe she's chasing the cat.
Yeah, she's not at her screen.
Okay, Richard,
Time. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. I'm still here.
I can hear you, but
Oh, I said I have no questions at this time.
oh, sorry.
Okay.
I guess I missed that part. Jen?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Brendan?
So I guess just to clarify, you're putting walls up along 3A? Is in the
Yes.
wetland? Is that in the wetland?
One wall is in the wetland a little bit. Yeah, wetland I, it's called on the eastern side. The retaining walls are about 8 feet tall.
8 feet tall from like grade,
Yeah, like the roadside would be taller than
driving through a tunnel now?
I think it's the other way around.
No. It's the other way around, correct?
Okay, so they're going down.
Yes, they're going down.
Mike, maybe you could elaborate with that a little bit. Like if the road's being widened, then rather than a slope, this is going to a wall, maybe you could,
Yeah, if you can jump to sheet 11, Jen.
Josh is navigating the,
Oh, Josh, thanks. And then kind of zoom in where that green area is there, where it says temp L, wetland L temp. Yeah, so I can, does everybody see where that stationing
Yeah.
is along the baseline where this town line is station 0 and then it goes to station 1? So at station 1 plus 50 or 2, where that green impact is, there's a wall designation that's called prop gravity wall location 2. And that's kind of it has a width to it. It's not just a line. It's like a jagged sort of line on the top that there's a proposed, the road's getting widened in this location, and then there's a guardrail and then a proposed sidewalk. And then after the sidewalk, there's going to be a retaining wall that goes down to the existing grade elevation to basically retain the Route 3A elevations. So the contours in this area, for example, are elevation 37 right near station 1 plus 50. So the top of the wall would be around elevation 37, and then the bottom of the wall is closer to elevation 30, 20, 29, 30-ish. So that green area represents the area the contractor would need to go in to install the wall, and any impacts to that wetland would be reseeded with wetland seed mix, native seed mix.
Okay, but the wall is in the wetland.
That wall actually is not in the wetland, this one. But
Okay.
there's a sliver of the wall on the next sheet, sheet 12, on the north, that
Yes.
wall's in
just-
the wetland.
But, all right, so it goes 7 feet down.
Yes.
And is there what's above the road? Like, are we just gonna walk off the road and go 7 feet down?
No, you
There's a guardrail and there's a fence.
A fence, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
think.
Yep. Thanks.
Maybe
Brendan.
you can just elaborate as well, like the widening, is that also due to the sidewalk, the installation of the sidewalk?
Yes, it's due to the installation of the sidewalk and the bike lanes.
Okay. All right, Eric?
There was a discussion of, I think it was connecting H to I, the two wetlands, and to maintain the hydrologic connectivity that was going to be culverted. Was there any changes to that portion of this plan?
No, the
Whether
same,
it's-
the existing drainage pipe is gonna be retained right around station 7 plus 10. There's an existing drain pipe that hydraulically connects wetland H and wetland I. And the same riprap splash pad is in the location of wetland I. And that's, the splash pad's actually a permanent impact as well to the wetland.
And with that, I guess, so my question is there any sort of maintenance that needs to be done to that culvert to ensure that that hydrologic connectivity remains in place? Or is that just sort of you set it and sort of forget it and allow sort of natural process to sort of take over from there?
We basically, we set it exactly with the existing inverts, and the new walls have a like a space in them for the pipe to kind of come through. So the actual wall is the head wall, if you will. So the pipe will connect right out of the wall, and then it will be flush with the ground, and there'll be stone on the north side there where the splash pad is on the east side. And the other side is maintaining the same hydraulic connection on
Right.
wetland H.
Okay, thank you.
That's
I
it.
appreciate
Yep.
it.
no problem.
Penny, did Penny reappear?
No, I had to go let Jake in. My question is not so much a, Concom question. I'm just very concerned about people crossing to go back into North Scituate, Henry Turner Bailey. Will there be a set of lights at that point? We already have lots of accidents there. And I'm just concerned with pedestrians getting back across the street if they're over on the other side.
Yep, thanks, Penny. There is gonna be a full new intersection at Henry Turner Bailey Road with Route 3A with red lights and green lights, like standard traffic.
Okay, a
Set up.
standard traffic, thank you.
Yes, yep. So there'll be
Hallelujah.
pedestrian crosswalks
Yeah.
and the sidewalk will connect up on the north side of Henry Turner Bailey Road to where
Yeah.
there's an existing sidewalk up there.
Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem.
Do we have
That's all,
anybody?
Frank.
Thanks, Penny. Do we have anybody in the audience for this? Not seeing anything. Josh or Jen, you don't have anybody?
No, I don't see any hands raised. And just while we're on this screen, just a little bit of a highlight that there is some wetland replication suggested with this project to add on to some of the existing wetland.
Good.
Yeah,
I guess with that, thanks, Jen. I assume that that's something that we'll look at closer to the implementation of regarding plant list and, you know, the approvals on that. I'm guessing that's not something that we're taking a look at right now.
there are details, Eric, in the plan set that shows what the replication area will be like for this particular location, we're showing two so there's gonna be actually, if you wanted, Jen, if you want to go to sorry, whoever's driving, go to sheet 19.
Apologies for missing that, Michael.
Oh, no problem. So there's a proposed wetland replication cross section at the upper right area there. So basically that's more or less what's going to happen with 6 inches of wetland soil and then a special wetland seed mix. And these are all MassDOT standard items that have been used on multiple projects. And in addition, there's plantings involved at this location with 2 red maples. So
Yep.
That's what it currently is shown as.
Excellent, thank you. And with that retention basin at the south side of Henry Turner Bailey, that's just a standard retention basin, right? There's nothing planted in there for
No, on the
stormwater overflow.
you mean on the northeast quadrant there, like the infiltration basin?
No, on the other side, isn't there a another basin in the event of 100-year
Yes.
storm?
Thank you for asking that. That's an area for compensatory flood storage for the 100-year impact to the 100-year floodplain. So that's just an excavated area with what is it? That has just seed mix there. There's no plantings there. It's just loam and seed with wetland seed riparian mix.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks. Are we getting another hand up or am I?
I don't know how to turn this off. I think I got it. Josh, do you know how to turn off the chat?
The chat?
Or Seth?
No.
Well,
Now we just lost everything.
Let's see.
yeah, if you,
No one. All right. I think I shut it off.
all right, and then, I mean, unless this person wants to come back in, I'm going to kick them out.
I think they're trying to raise I can't figure out how to raise their hand
Got it. Okay.
in this. I don't see it anymore in this version.
Okay. So if they want to raise their hand,
Brendan, you saying that the option to raise your hand is invisible?
I don't see it. Yeah, I happen to know who was in the chat and they live on 3A.
gotcha. So
They
I'll
probably are
unmute
trying
them.
to
How
raise
about
their
that?
hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Nancy and Tim, you are unmuted.
Yes.
Good evening. You just
Good
want
evening.
to give us your name and address for the record.
Sure.
please?
It's Tim and Nancy Goyette, 1001 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
Good evening.
Good evening. We've
Good
been having some technical difficulties trying to get in here. So we just have some general questions. We were contacted for the first time about this project about a month ago. And this has been years in the making. No one has contacted us by certified mail, by phone, in person. So all of this is being dumped on us. It's all new to us. So we're just kind of here trying to absorb all of this. And we've had one visit from the DOT, and that was a month ago, explaining what might occur on our property and what might occur in front of the home. So we're kind of here just trying to absorb all of this.
Is there a particular piece? I'm sorry, was it Tim? That
Yes.
maybe Mike could answer for
Well,
you.
we were told there was a bike lane going in, and that was unofficially. Then we found out when we had the meeting, there's a bike lane and a sidewalk going in on our side of the road. It's coming in substantially onto our property. We have a septic system that abuts where the work is going to be done. So we're a little bit concerned. We just are getting this all last minute in the last quarter of the game with a minute left.
Just maybe I can make it clear, Mike. Is this actually on their property or on the state's property?
Yeah, Tim, how you doing? This is Mike Rieger. I'm
You,
representing.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I work for a company called Trans Systems, and we developed the plan set for Mass DOT. So
Right.
so I know quite a bit about the project, and I can elaborate a little bit more for you. Jen, or whoever's controlling the screen, can you go to sheet 11?
Sure can.
I think this is Tim's property on the west side.
Yes.
So if you can zoom in right on that green location 2 there where it's compensatory flood storage area.
Oh,
This was recently added, Tim, probably about 6 months ago, I would say. So that's why you're probably hearing about it last minute through the right-of-way department.
Yeah, we haven't heard about anything, to be quite honest with you. This is the first we're hearing of officially.
Okay. So the location 2 kind of came after the fact, but the actual roadway widening is for a new bike lane and a sidewalk. That's been on the plans for at least a few years, but I don't know if that's been rolled out to you to, as an abutter it should have been.
We were never
Okay.
contacted. They said they were using an old address they had for us.
Oh, I see. Okay. That's unfortunate. But
PO box that we haven't used in over 20 years.
I realize, you've got questions. If we could keep these pertinent to the conservation hearing, if you
Sure.
have other questions about the construction,
Sure.
I would suggest that you take that up with Tim. We have a bunch of hearings tonight, so
Sure.
if we could.
No problem. It's just that
I'm not
this is-
trying to shortcut this, but what we're trying to deal with is the issues as they pertain to the wetlands.
Right, I get it. It's just, this is all new to us being dumped in our lap, that's all.
Okay. But I think I don't know if there's a way for you guys to exchange some information or
Yes, would be great.
Yeah, Tim, if you don't mind, I could come meet you at the site or at your house with
Great.
MassDOT right away at some point to further explain
Sure.
the project.
Right.
If anything, this meeting, maybe we have a contact, so
Sure.
can elaborate more.
And there is one question about a vernal pool was proposed. That was on the west side between our driveway and the Cohasset line.
Yeah, I think that's the compensatory, I think you're referring to this compensatory flood storage area that's
Okay.
shown on the screen. That's
Okay.
that's the location. That's what it is. It's basically
Okay.
excavation to allow the water from the 100-year flow to enter that depression there.
But that's not a vernal, we're not talking about a vernal pool.
It's not a vernal pool, no.
Okay, that's what DOT told us when they came out for the meeting at our house a month ago. That was the verbiage they used, so that's what I'm going off of.
Yeah, that's not correct. It's not a
Okay.
vernal pool.
Okay. Is
So
there
we're
maybe,
we're kind of here just to listen. So we just got to get that out there that we're just
Sure.
listening. So I get what you're saying about conservation. So
is there something on this that has, Mike, that has your contact info or vice versa? Do you guys want to?
Well, if anybody wants to email me, I can send you guys each other's
That'd be great.
info.
Listen, Tim, if you could email the Scituate Concom office and then in turn they can get you contacted.
sure, that's great. I think Nancy's been in touch with Jen, I think.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? So I think, I mean, the gist of this is widening, and they are going to be putting some of the walls in the wetlands. They're going to have to do some replication for that and deal with some other mitigation. The other side of that is that there's the addition of pedestrian sidewalk and bike path. You know, as the commission looks at these things to find out, to see if there's positive project in general. I know this isn't the best thing possibly for people that abut it right up to it, but it also adds a good deal of safety issues and a set of lights at that intersection that's been dangerous for years. So I would think that those are the kind of things that the commission could also weigh, as well as that it seems like they've taken the appropriate steps to deal with the areas where they've had to encroach on the wetlands or actually alter them. Anybody else have any other comment or thought? I have a motion.
I make a motion to close.
It's Penny.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Just a second from Jen.
Ken Foley. All in favor? Richard?
He's out in Hammerock.
Brendan?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you, Frank.
Thank you very much.
Yep,
And you'll
thank
talk to, get a hold of Tim and
Yep.
hopefully get through some of that. Would be appreciated. Thank
Yep,
you.
no problem. Thanks.
We have a request for continuation of 280 Central Ave, and they're requesting July 22nd, right?
Yes, they're waiting on their structurals. They haven't gotten those back yet.
Okay, so can I get a motion to continue this to July 22nd?
I make a motion, we continue 280 Central Ave to July 22nd.
Thank you, Penny. Or second now?
I'll second it. You hear me?
Richard, we got you loud and clear.
Oh,
Wow,
finally. Gee.
look at that. All in favor, Jen?
Yep.
Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Oh,
28 River Road. So am I
You
open
do need to
that
open this one, yes.
on July 1st, 2024 at 6 p.m. The Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the notice of intent application for Leslie and Jeff Hubbard for work related to grading and planting at location 28 River Road, Hummerock, Scituate. Others in the other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to host on how to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website.
And we have Jeff Hassett here from Morse Engineering presenting.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Jen. Good evening, everyone. Jeff Hassett here with Morse Engineering. So this is an NOI filing for 28 River Road in Hummerock, and the property owners are Leslie and Jeff Hubbard. This property is about 20,000 square feet. River Road is up near Fourth Cliff in Hummerock. If you're heading north through Hummerock,
oh, yeah.
at the fork, you go left at the fork, and River Road is on the left-hand side. And this is the last house on the left there. The home itself was reconstructed in 2018. We filed an NOI for that in 2016. That wetland line was about 8 years old, so we had it reflagged, but it's generally the same. Brad Holmes flagged a BVW, which is shown in blue there. And then the entire property is in a FEMA AE elevation 15 zone. So the work on this property is, if you're standing in the backyard looking at the house, there's a pervious patio underneath the deck, and it wasn't laid level. So the right side, you can see a spot shot at 8.1. And then on the left side, it drops down about 11 inches to 7.2. So the first part of the project is to bring that up to level. So we're calling it out to be leveled at 8.1. And then from there, the grade drops back to about elevation 7 at the back of the yard. So it drops off about 1 to 2 feet. And what happens there is at the back of the yard, nothing grows. That was originally going to be a mitigation area with plants. They've planted those twice and they've never taken. They've tried grass, that's never taken. And the reason is that lower area does get inundated occasionally. So what they would like to do is pick up that area of the yard at max 1.2 feet. And it's a very narrow area. It's only about 20 feet wide there. In exchange for that, they would like to give up right along the existing edge of their lawn, 2 feet wide to be a stone trench, and then 3 feet wide of a sloped area that would be planted with plantings. So that we had Brad Holmes put together a plan. He is going to be planted with 5 different species of bushes, a total of 42 bushes. There will be a mulch sock going around the limit of work. And I do have a photograph if I'm able to share it, or if you want me to, I can show that to you. I think it really shows it well. But ultimately, we're looking to just pick up the grade in the backyard a little bit. They originally wanted to pick it up higher, doing retaining walls. I said, that's probably not going to happen. But if we kind of reconfigure the mitigation area and come up with a balance where you just pick it up a little bit so that stuff will actually grow, that would be a fair balance. And it's not a velocity zone, so it's not going to deflect waves. It's an AE directly connected to the South River into the ocean. So this small area has no significant impact on flood storage. So with that, I'll pass it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen?
Well, I know it's AE, but I do think it's in that coastal A area. So even though it's an A zone, we can get into the definition of it like seeing some wave action. So that would make sense as to why it gets inundated. I'm not quite sure I understand the trench and the stonework coming in.
Sure. So the stone trench is really more of a landscape feature that their landscaper would like to install. He's going to make it look more like a riverbed, but for the detail purposes, it's going to look like a standard stone trench. I forget what length and 3 feet wide, probably about a foot deep, crushed stone wrapped in filter fabric, and then more of a decorative, you know, fieldstone, cobblestone, riverbed look at the surface.
I mean, and there's no, it's just aesthetic reasons for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. The stone trench will help in small storms. You know, it's going to promote recharge. It's going to, you know, capture some of the runoff there and get it into the sand. But when this area floods, it's sea level rising. That stone trench isn't going to do a
Wait a
whole
minute.
lot. I don't think it hurts, but I don't think that's going to, you know, solve any problems in the area.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's not a wall.
No, it's definitely not a wall. It's flush with the ground. It's a little depression, actually. A little swale.
I want to take that off so I can put a new bed on.
I think that's all my questions for now.
Okay. Richard?
Just to be sure, you understand, this is bordering the river, not the ocean, correct?
Correct.
So I don't think you're going to have any wave action except, you know, if boats buzz through, but it's really set back there a long way. So I don't even think there's going to be wave action. It would simply be tidal water that can come up
Right,
in that area. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm back here.
Penny, I'm sorry.
I was talking to Jake. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. No worries. No, I don't have any other questions right now.
Okay. Jen?
I think can you come back to me, Frank? I'm still kind of mulling.
Sure. Brendan?
I guess my mulling time is over.
Okay.
So this whole area of the backyard, you want to bring in Phil to raise it?
No, just that one corner.
No, the whole area.
Yeah, so the area immediately behind the house, it's about 20 feet wide. There's a fire pit in the middle. It slopes off from the house at 8.1 down to about, actually, elevation 6 at the wetland. And the problem is this lower area is just, it's bare soil. Nothing will take there. So, so yes, they would like to pick the grade up to elevation 7.4, 7.6. So at most, it's about 1.2 feet of fill in the middle area, in the middle of that area.
Well, I guess what's holding all this fill in place? Is it this stone trench? The landscape feature here?
No, it's just going to be a gradual 3-to-1 grading up, and then that slope will be stabilized with 42 shrubs. Now the stone trench is flat, actually.
Jeff, did you happen to submit the pictures that I'm able to look at?
I dropped off one picture today.
I'm gonna see if Josh might be able to bring something up here. It might help you a little bit to see what he's talking about. I got a hard copy here. I don't think this is gonna work.
Josh, if you look in the project folder, there's some photos. It's a Word document that's got like 4 photos in it.
Yep, I see it. Yeah, let me share. Did that pop up?
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so that bottom picture is basically the one I had in mind. But you can see the way that patio drops off about 11 inches underneath. And then the area in the foreground where it's bare soil, that's where they've tried. The whole property is manicured very nicely. In this area, no matter what they try, they can't get anything to grow. So we could pick that up about a foot, plant in the perimeter. I think it would be an improvement to the resource area with a nice planted buffer around the edge, and then also accomplish what the homeowners are going for.
So, and the deck is not the patio there. The patio? Or
The
deck above?
patio, yeah.
The deck above is level.
Yes.
Patio is not. Okay, I guess I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay.
We'll talk
Eric?
tomorrow.
Thanks. Did we have any kind of a planting plan, Jeff?
We do, yeah. Yeah,
But
Brad Holmes put together a planting plan.
Do we have it?
You do, yes.
Yes, we have it.
Actually, that would be Josh, if that's in that folder. I'm sorry, go ahead, Eric, while we're.
Yeah, I mean,
There we
I
go.
think part of my concern is sort of what Brennan was inquiring about, and just how that runoff is going to not increase sedimentation into the marsh. I mean, understanding that turf is difficult to grow in these areas with the sandy soil, water retention is extremely difficult, and I don't know what time of year this is planned on, getting started, but establishment of turf grass for a sediment prevention measure in these conditions do concern me a bit. And I understand the slope is 3-to-1. It's nothing, extreme. However, with some of these heavy downpour events that we've been having, I just am concerned about sediment flow into the marsh from the deposited material to level this off. And I understand, I mean, this buffer plant list looks great. Lots of plants that certainly would succeed in this sort of soil environment, abutting a marsh. But the turf grass is something I do have a concern about. I don't know what the situation is in terms of how they're maintaining their turf grass right now, what their nutrient management or irrigation programs look like. But yeah, I think the establishment of that turf grass environment as the only way to prevent sediment flow into the marsh would be my biggest concern.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Jeff, do you want to respond before I jump to Penny?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so right now there's a lot of bare soil there to begin with. This is an attempt to prevent bare soil. In the long run, it'll be better stabilized. It's a small area. That area of sloping is only about 3 feet wide, and it will be stabilized very well with those 42 bushes. But in the meantime, we could have the contractor put down like a jute mesh on that slope. And then if there were anything to run, if there was to have any runoff, it would get picked up in that stone trench right at the toe of it too. Kind of coincidentally, it would help to that effect. And the lawn area is going to be flat, so less chance of sedimentation from there. And just based on the rest of the property here, the grass is pristine, and I'm sure they're trying to get it to that same level. So they'll be out there. They don't have irrigation, but they'll be out there watering it. And
right.
I picture this getting done in the fall.
Right, and that's great time for turf grass establishment. I just bare soil of natural soil profile is one thing, because then that's sandy material going into sandy material, but introduced fill material, whether that's loam or a organic rich compost blend, is maybe another. But if there is sedimentation that goes into that stone trench, is there any sort of maintenance plan associated with making sure that that's free and clear, or is that just, I think, as you
Um,
maybe had referenced before, is more of an aesthetic thing.
it is more of an aesthetic thing, but it would be also a maintenance thing if it were to be clogged up. Just kind of thinking out loud here, there could also be a siltation fence right at that transition from. I mean, we're already falling out of an erosion barrier. That could just remain in place until the area is
Sure.
stabilized.
Well, thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Jen, did I jump over you?
Oh, you came to me and then I said, I need more time.
Okay.
I guess I just have I love how robust the planting plan is. Really, really wonderful. And I see the problem with the patio, and I could totally support that being reset. But I am remiss to bring in any loom inside the 50, especially.
And Frank, may I add something?
Sure.
I know we're looking at a wetland line and buffer to it, but I'm not unconvinced it's a coastal area. I know there's a barrier beach line on Mass Mapper that's created from aerial pictures that, you know, ends just short of this property, but just also consider the fact it's a coastal area, so maybe not a place to be bringing in fill and bringing in a stone trench to be anything that would get in the way of sediment shifting and moving. It's definitely happens there.
Okay. Jeff, you want to?
Having said that, the plantings look great.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeff?
the homeowners came to us at first and they wanted to put a retaining wall around the whole thing and pick it up quite a bit higher. And we're trying to come up with this plan, something that's a balance where, you know, they can accomplish what they're hoping for, but not have that impact that you're talking about where, you know, it's going to redirect flow or change drainage patterns. I really don't, you know, this is an area that's a little bit elevated. All the other houses around there are elevated the same amount. The height they're looking to raise this backyard to is the same, if not lower than all the other backyards. So I really don't see it deflecting waves, changing the sedimentation pattern. It's just a small area only coming up so much.
Do we have anybody in the audience? Kind of maybe a couple of questions. So this house looks like it's was put on pilings fairly recently. Do you know when this was conditioned, Jeff?
It was approved in 2016. A certificate of compliance was issued in 2018.
And I'm assuming that I'm going to call it like a jut out or whatever it is. I mean, if you follow the wetlands line, that clearly is an area that got filled at some point, but I'm assuming that was there long before.
Yeah, the wetland line is within a couple feet of what it was flagged as in 2016. And that's been, you know, that area there that you're looking at has always been a lawn area, a maintained area.
But that fill or whatever that was placed there was well before any of these projects, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the grade came up in that area naturally.
Somebody filled that in years ago to create that, because it's clear like the marsh line would have just looped right around the front of it, but someone years and years ago altered that area.
Yeah.
So I understand the stone area to try to protect that and getting the plantings in, elevating the patio. And I guess, you know, your thinking is if you raise that grade about 10 inches or something, they'll be less likely to have that salt intrusion. on there. I guess that would be the question maybe the members could think about is the addition of the stone, which I think is positive, and the addition of the plantings, which I think is really positive. Does that offset the little bit of material, the extra loam that's placed in here to get a lawn? Are those conservation stakes that I'm seeing in the photo? There's like several posts, but it's too.
No, they're not. And we could add conservation posts. They
Okay.
were like a raised bed at one point, I
Okay.
think.
So I'm wondering if maybe the addition of some conservation markers also, do we know, I think in some of these places we've had in order conditions, I know we did it off of Neilgate Street to limit the use of any fertilizers or anything, and maybe Eric can help me out a little bit here. So making sure that any care to this lawn is organic, both pesticides and fertilizers. To me, that would be a plus, that would cover the whole yard, not just that area. Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I think that could certainly be something that's important, especially a low phosphorus, to decrease the potential of eutrophication issues, within the river and marsh. I don't know I'm pretty sure a lot of conditions, especially in resource areas, say that no fertilizers. I'm pretty sure. But the specifics on that.
I know we've added it into some of them that are along the river and whatnot, and I'm just wondering, if we think about that, and I'm not sure what's in the orders right now, but if we have that, it doesn't have a central or it doesn't have a permanent irrigation system, and then any care to the lawn, if we can write up a stipulation that's environmentally friendly, that could be part of that order. To me, those kind of things would mitigate the addition of some loom there. That's just my personal thought. Anybody want to?
We've used that a number of times on a number of projects, eliminating the fertilizers and all as a condition.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, Frank,
Yes, Penny.
the big thing is to get those plantings growing where they planted once before and they didn't grow. Now, if we're gonna raise things up a little bit, I mean, to have these plantings to me is so beneficial.
Okay.
And a little bit of lawn.
Jeff,
So
the other thing, I think maybe Eric brought it up, was the concern about, you put in that stone and then you digging around it with planting all the plants, and then if you wind up silting up all that stone, so maybe a second, maybe a smaller erosion control or something between the stone
Sure.
and the plants that could just, disintegrate there.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Might be a good thing.
yeah.
Does anybody else want to?
And the other thing, Frank, the other thing I would suggest as I look at this regarding the plantings is if there could be closer to the house, another row of the plantings actually, just inside the back, what I would call the back row, in other words, inside. So there'll be a second row at the back. I think that might also help. I think the plantings are way more important than any kind of grass or other things that might be in.
When you say a second row.
Well, if you see where the plant says 7.4, another row right where that 7.4 is, or, inside the back row that's already there. In other words, 2 rows at the back instead of 1.
Okay, right at the end you're talking about?
Yes, correct.
So make that a
little wider with the plantings.
Okay. Jeff?
So we're talking about that plant, the bottom area on that page
Yes,
Yeah.
Jeff, exactly.
7.4
part
went
that-
Where
down,
where the
Which-
numbers say 7.4 now, put
the
another,
lower part, big side
exactly,
above.
where the cursor is.
Well, it
Make
says it in
that-
a bunch, 7.4 is in a bunch of places, but the idea would be
Right,
like
Where the-
Bottom.
double the width of the plantings
Exactly.
between where it is now, sort of come, so maybe the fire pit's got to get shifted a little closer to the house.
exactly.
Big deal.
We've been serving together for so long, we can just read each other's minds.
Yeah. If that makes a commission more comfortable with it, I mean,
I just
Leave it
think
up to
that,
you.
I think the planting plan is way more impressive and less concerning than the rest of it. And I think that might help.
Or I don't know. I don't want to acknowledge the importance of the buffer plants. But maybe instead of just duplicating and just doubling the whole thing, we get an increase in the herbaceous material across the board, and then that planting plan doesn't have to, double in terms of square footage. We could maybe go 50% larger, but really beef up that herbaceous material layer. That'll spread easier than some of the shrub layer. It'll establish itself far more readily. It'll have just as great of an impact on reducing sediment flow and infiltration as a few of the whether it's the America or the Amelanchier. A couple more grasses and some of the goldenrod to really boost out some square footage there, but not taking up as much as maybe necessarily doubling it. I think that could be a good compromise, maybe.
yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. So maybe in that area, increase it 50% wider, but buff up more herbaceous plants, more of the grasses.
Yeah, the grass and the goldenrod.
Yeah, we can do
for
that.
example.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, so how do we want to handle that? Do we want to close this and take that piece? Do you want to have a plan come back to us?
I would
Any-
love a plan to come back to us and then we can be ready to close an issue at the next one.
I think that's a
Okay.
good idea.
Is there anybody else who sort of just want to make sure there's no other thoughts or additions? So we're gonna,
Can we continue it to the next meeting, Jen? Do we have room?
Yes,
Thank you.
but Frank, you were going to give us a summary of
yeah,
what we
so
were
I
adding.
think that for the things that we're adding, we maybe widen we're gonna keep the stone is gonna be as it's proposed. There'll be an erosion control. Outside of that, there'll be a simpler, smaller thing to separate erosion control, to separate the plant beds from the stone so that doesn't creep into there. There's gonna be some wetland posts on the property, around the whole property. Not around the whole, but the back towards the marsh.
Yeah.
There'll be some posts. Then, to Eric's point, add additional grasses and whatnot to make that a denser planting. What else did we talk about? And then the pesticide fertilizer kind of control, details in the orders. Is that it?
And we usually say we don't allow fertilizers. Am I
Okay,
missing
but
something? Okay, all
whatever
right.
our
Yep.
piece is, we're
Well,
gonna
that'll
put
be,
that.
that'll be in conditions after we close it, which we're not doing tonight.
Yeah, but just so they
Correct.
understand, it's all, we want to make sure it's part of our discussion.
And any kind of maintenance they might need to this.
Mhm.
Yep, to keep
Yep.
it going.
Okay,
Okay.
Jeff, are you on board with all that?
Yeah, that all sounds great.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll request a continuance to your next meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
so somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion, we continue. I can't see, 28
28
River
River Road.
Road to July 24th, is it?
22nd.
22nd, a few days off.
I'll second it.
That was second, motion by Penny, second by Richard. All in favor, Jen,
Yep.
Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you, good thoughts.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. 165 Summer Street, on July 1st, 2024, 6 p.m. meetings. Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the notice of intent application of Eli Adams for work related to the regrading and supplementation of an existing gravel driveway at location 65 Summer Street, Scituate, Mass. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information on how to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website. Okay, and we have Morse Engineering again.
Yep, Jeff Hassett here again. Joining me is Jeff DeLisi. And as you mentioned, this is an NOI filing and primarily to reconfigure a driveway at 165 Summer Street. This property, it's 3.2 acres in size. It's developed with one single family home at the moment. And they have a large gravel looped driveway that then extends to the right-hand side of the house. And then also it wraps around the left-hand side of the house back to the rear of the property. The property is in both Norwell and Scituate. So you can see the town line bisecting the property, kind of making a triangle in that bottom left corner. So that bottom left corner of the page is Norwell and the upper part is Scituate. So the work under this NOI filing, the portion in Scituate is that that driveway is in the future going to serve a second home that will be built in that upland portion where it says lot 2. So this is to resurface that driveway, widen it in areas, and some minor grading adjustments, as well as installing utilities under it. All of the work is in an area that's currently cleared. There's no trees being removed, and there will be an erosion control barrier at that downgrading limit work. So only a small portion of that work is in the Scituate buffer zone to the wetland. The wetlands were reviewed by Art Allen of Ecotech. He agreed with the wetland line, and his suggestion was that the portions of the driveway that are being removed, being those 2 green areas, is to call them out to be planted with a native seed mix. So that's perfectly fine. We've submitted a revised plan calling that out. And I think this is going to be a net, positive for the wetland buffer, utilizing the existing driveway and then removing other portions of the driveway. So with that, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jen?
Yes, we don't have Art on tonight. And the area to be, I guess, restored, like what was a driveway, if I'm reading it correctly, it's all on the Norwell side. I did let Norwell know. And I just want to double check there isn't any other work proposed on the Scituate side other than extending the driveway?
Nope, that's.
No, and not even extending. It's staying in the same spot, just kind of being resurfaced, widened a little bit, and utilities installed.
All right. Will there be another project filed with Scituate at some point?
Yep.
Yes.
At some point, a house will likely be built where it says lot 2. And that area is outside of the 100-foot wetland buffer. So we won't be back in front of you with an NOI, but if it ends up triggering a stormwater permit, we could be back for that.
Okay.
Hmm.
I just like I understand all of that. It's just then I just don't know what to do with the driveway. But I guess the big picture is the Art reviewed the line and he's in agreement with where the line is.
Yes.
Can I before I jump to members, can I went out and looked at this quite a while ago and again, so just maybe you can clarify a couple more things, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
So the work that's going to be in lot 1 is all in Norwell, correct?
No,
No.
just that driveway.
So, well, the 2 replication areas and then the middle driveway.
Oh.
That's all in Norwell.
That's all in Norwell, yes.
So you're going before the Norwell Conservation Commission,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
To deal with restoring the abandoned driveways and for the new strip that you're putting in until it gets to the Scituate line.
Correct.
Okay, I think that's important to know. And then is the driveway that's in Scituate, is that proposed to be paved at this time?
No, it will be gravel.
Because I'm seeing there's a note that says proposed bituminous concrete common driveway.
Yeah, so the common driveway portion, as it comes off of Summer Street, that portion in Norwell is paved. And then if you look, I can't point to this, but there's a dash line across it and it says
Right
proposed limit of
where
paving.
the driveway split?
Yeah, that's where it says proposed limit of paving. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's all in Norwell.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then it'll be a gravel driveway after that.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I want to get to the members, but I just kind of wanted a little clarification there. And this pretty much is already there now. It was built many years ago. Right?
Yes.
This grading and all this sort of stuff was actually constructed under a prior project that then never got done.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I don't know. Brendan, you want to go first? You can wait.
Does anybody else want to go? No, so I'm just trying. Yeah, so for I guess don't have any questions at this moment.
Well, we can circle back. It's just a little confusing because of the Norwell
Yeah.
piece and whatnot. So, all right. Jen?
So for the Scituate portion, and pardon if you have already said this, but you're not widening or adding any other square footage to the existing driveway. You're just digging for utilities.
The existing driveway in that area is 8 to 10 feet wide. Is what our surveyor is located, and we're going to make it a continuous 10-foot wide width. So there is some slight widening.
If you looked at this now, Jen, you would hardly know you can see where it was improved, but it's been so long, it's actually grassed over.
Yeah, I could see some of it on the satellite. Okay. It's almost like I feel like I'm missing something. But
well, because we don't have the project.
All we have is improvement of a driveway. But and then this driveway sort of dead ends there. So my assumption is that they want to do something with this front house so that they can move forward with the back house. And so they're trying to get the driveway all reestablished before they move forward would be so the prior owner started this a long time ago. There's actually a septic system out on that large parcel in the back. It's already installed.
Yeah.
Where it says shed. And then there's some clearing. There's already a septic system out there for that future home.
Is that true? There really was a septic put in? That's not on the plan?
I made it up.
But I mean, okay.
There's a retaining wall in the back. It says boulder wall, but there's a concrete retaining wall back there.
I have seen it, Jen.
Or the retaining walls. I'm sorry, that's on the far side. You can see that note way in the back. Yeah, when Brendan and Eric and I went out there, we could see the back of this piece of property from the one we were walking on. So they built that retaining wall. They built a field. That existing path goes out, and there's an area that was cleared, and a septic system was all installed. So now they're kind of formalizing the driveway going back to that piece of property that's how I see it. Does that help or hurt or?
But it's all out of our jurisdiction, so it's not coming back to us, Jeff said.
Right. So so it's hard to like, you know,
We're just looking at the driveways,
Driveway.
that's it.
but a driveway that isn't like going to anything. Just
Well, it's going to
so-
that back lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's already there, it's just being stiffed up.
Right. Like I say, somebody started this a long time ago
Yeah.
and then kind of dropped it.
I guess what I'm saying is you can't ask for something, you know, for the little bit of work that is in the 50. It's hard to know where to ask for that when you don't know what else is going on. I mean, I assume the math all works out to the area you're, you know, being restored of the driveway being abandoned, but I mean, that's all in Norwell.
Oh, it's a little funky because it's in Norwell.
Yeah.
I mean, you could think about something. I don't know. What would? Well, let's
I mean, the
pass
other
it
thing
around.
is-
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it and it's, I mean, utilities, water and electric are going in. So, I mean, we're talking about a trench, you know, at or below, you know, frost level. Whether or not it's, you know, a pervious pavement or not, there is going to still be significant excavation within the 50, I would imagine, to get utilities out and around lot 1 for access to lot 2.
Correct.
And there is that drip going through the 50, so that is significant work going through the 50 in an area that does have not insignificant grading, you know, off to the paper northwest, you know, up and left, you know, heading towards the BVW. So that is the biggest thing of concern that I'm looking at just within that short little strip within the 50 is the grade and the amount of potential excavation within that driveway area for utilities to service that potential lot 2 project.
Point. Want to keep going to some members and then Penny? Did we lose Penny? Richard?
Yeah, what Eric said was the only thing I picked up on once I figured out where we were talking about. So, yeah, the utilities would be the bigger part. If it's all going to be gravel, that doesn't bother me so much, as long as it really is. But that's the one part, the utilities that he mentioned, I would think would be the one thing I'm concerned.
Okay. Jen, did you have any more thoughts?
Jen Smith or Jen Foley?
Jen, either Jen. How about that?
I'm good.
I was going to just say we usually prefer crushed stone on surfaces like this. And I would also want to say if when you get to the part of opening it up to anybody else for comments, people should be able to unmute themselves. I was told there was some issues with raising your hand. So Frank, if you're okay, I can
Yep.
call on people, but
Yeah,
so we can raise hands. Great. So
Yep,
Caitlin
yep.
Murphy. Okay.
So yeah, let's
Um,
open it up. If there's no other commission members at the moment, let's open it up and see what we have for.
Hi, this is Caitlin Murphy's husband, Jonathan Robin, actually.
Good
I'm
evening.
good evening. Hi. I'm curious. It sounds like nobody seems to know the exact answer as to where this house is going to be on lot 2. Does anyone have, I don't know if the engineers have an answer to that, or if there's in the previous meeting with the planning board, is there a diagram of where the proposed house is going to be?
We don't have, Jeff, do you have any comment on that?
No, I really don't. You know, this filing is just to establish the work on lot 1 so that they can, you know, then move on to that portion of the project.
So as far as anybody knows, there hasn't ever been a plan for a house shown to anybody at this point.
That's correct.
Hey, thanks.
I think though what's important to remember, if you can look at that whole plan, is the back area of the large lot, way in the back, there's a retaining wall shown there. And there's a leaching area in the area that's sort of cleared, like you can see the tree lines and you can see where the existing, they call it a path.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to that area that's clear where the arrow is, that there's a leaching area in there now. So I can, you have to make a little bit of an assumption, but you'd probably say that somewhere between that path and the back property line of 165 is more than likely where the house could, it could also go, I guess, on the other side of that path, on that slope side, because that would be out of the 100. But it would have to be sort of in one of those two locations.
Okay, thanks.
Does that help?
It does. Our property abuts it to the south of that, so we're just the other side of the boulder wall. But
sure,
we I suppose we just have to wait until someone puts in a plan to, I presume, the planning board.
It's kind of a funky setup because of the way the property sits in both towns. And it was something that was started a long time ago and then sort of just never got done. And so they're coming back and revising it a little bit. But to the points that were made, we're not really conditioning anything with that. We're just trying to look at this, the area, the work that they're proposing, and how do we best condition that spot is what we're thinking about right now.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Anybody have any more? I think Jen and Eric, some good points. Could talk about the driveway condition and what goes on in the driveway. Whether we want some conservation markers. Do we think that it warrants any planting or anything along the I guess that is a tough one. We've been talking about a long time of like trying to make sure we condition the replacement of some trees. When they go to build a house back here, they'll be cutting for trees, but they'll already be through the gate when it comes to the commission.
Well, they do have some markers on the plan. I think I see at least 3 of them kind of right along where
Is that
they're
what those
improving the
squares
driveway.
are, Jeff?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And maybe we do put something in about if a tree of a certain size is taken down to replace it somewhere on the property, within the 100.
Well, we're not proposing any trees to be removed right now.
We
Okay.
understand that, Jeff, but let's just take and this is an odd setup, but you have lot 1 is in both towns, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And then lot 2 is the part that you're saying there's no work that's going on, which is where the house will wind up being, but this driveway essentially services that location. So there's a situation created where a driveway is going to get built and going to somewhere, but you're not having to address the clearing in that area because your driveway's on another piece of property.
Well, it would be addressed if that new home triggers a stormwater permit, it would be addressed.
Right. But right
Which
now
it likely will.
you've got a driveway going through the 50 and the 100. And so I'm just wondering if that can be part of the orders, that we can have something within the orders for this driveway that address the cutting of trees when they go to build the house in the back part.
Jeff DeLisi raised his hand.
That was your question, right, Jen? Or
I was
concern?
suggesting anything that happens in the 100.
Or concern. Well, what's happening in the in the 50 and the 100 is a new driveway is being built. There's a cleared area that's there with some sort of a driveway, but they're improving it and they're running utilities to the property line. So both of that construction is all happening in the 50 and in the 100. But more substantial clearing is going to occur on lot 2 when they build a house. Follow me?
Right, right. And I guess,
So if this was all on one piece of property, we'd be talking about that because they where they were putting the road through the 50 and the 100. So we could clearly be talking about trees on lot 2 because they were going through those 2 buffer areas. That's my logic. So the question is, can we have in the orders for this driveway anything that pertains to lot 2?
Wouldn't they be more appropriate if there was a house, plans for a house that we had to deal with? Or is it because that wouldn't be in our jurisdiction that you want to do it now?
Well, the project would be in our jurisdiction is my point.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the area where the house isn't being placed wouldn't be in our jurisdiction, but as a whole project, like there's rules in building or even in some of these things, like you can't do a whole bunch of small projects that don't trigger something to avoid dealing with a larger project.
Rick, I think the only hesitation here with, with more trees is that, the place, when you're coming down that driveway on the left-hand side, the woods are right there.
Right.
So we really don't have the opportunity there to enhance the buffer.
Right.
We could in Norwell, in that green area, but that would fall under Norwell's. And, I'm not opposed to having, putting like 4 or 5 trees in that area.
I guess my thinking would be that we would rather see trees replaced or replenished if things are being cut further back. This abuts the South Swamp. And it goes into it fairly quickly. I mean, it's a fairly steep slope from where the back of that house is to the South Swamp.
Yep. And we could also probably think about trees along the right-hand side of that driveway, between the driveway and the septic system for lot 1. We could certainly agree to some evergreens, maybe like 4 or 5 evergreens in that area. So it'd be just outside of the 50-foot buffer.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? I mean, I don't see any real problem with what's being done with this here. I just think it's sort of, it leaves us with nothing more on lot 2.
But that work on lot 2 is outside of the jurisdiction,
But my point is that it would all be if this driveway were all on one piece of property, if this came to us as a whole project, then we would be looking at the whole. And we could say, geez, you know what? There's not much mitigation that could benefit the town of Scituate or the South Swamp in the area that's happening here. But could there be additional mitigation on lot 2 to offset the work that you're trying to do on lot 1? Does that make any sense?
I get I get it, but I guess I just don't totally agree, because it's outside. That additional work on lot 2 is outside of the jurisdiction, so you wouldn't really typically provide mitigation for work outside of the buffer zone. And then just to replant trees on lot 2, it's already wooded, you know.
Well,
So-
you're gonna be clearing an area, Jeff, is
Right.
my point. It just
Right.
seems like this is sort of a loophole to me in a way.
Well, they're not doing this as a loophole. They're doing it because with the intent of being able to sell lot one.
I understand it, and they want to get clear of that, but what they're doing essentially is kicks the door open to sort of go unmitigated in the back part of it. And they're going through a buffer zone to do that.
Yeah.
So Frank, can I jump in? Jeff DeLisi?
Yes, Jeff.
Not that it matters so much. I tend to agree with Jeff Hassett that it's work that's outside of the buffer zone. But I also understand your point. So the question is could you impose a condition that requires some kind of review of the area or the trees that are being cleared, and some mitigation or planting plan to kind of fill in that gap, should that happen in the future? I think that if the applicant is willing to agree to that kind of condition or would want to say yes, we'll be happy to agree to a condition that requires us to consult with the conservation agent, and do reasonable plantings as to offset any land clearing on lot 2. I think that we probably could agree to that. I don't think it's unreasonable. It's just difficult to define. And so I would kind of leave it a little broad, knowing that everybody's working in good faith, and leave it up to Jen to be able to work with the applicant on that. I certainly trust Jen to be reasonable. So I guess I'm kind of offering an olive branch there.
I guess the thing that I look at, Jeff, and right now the players are yourself and Jeff, and we get a road in here, but depending on what the applicant does with that, I mean, they could get this squared away, sell 165, and then turn around and sell lot 2, and then we're dealing with someone entirely different.
Yeah, but you still have an order of conditions that has a condition of approval that either if the work that's shown on this plan is completed, you can keep as an ongoing condition and it remains a lien on the property. It's no different than any other order of conditions in any other circumstance where people might alienate their land, and I don't see that as a problem.
So would you want to come back with something, propose a condition that we could put on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to submit something to Jen, but I wouldn't want it to hold this up, but we do have some additional work to do, obviously, with the Norwell Commission, and we're going to the ZBA. I'm sorry, we've already been to the ZBA. So yeah, I suppose if you wanted to bump this a couple of weeks, and I would propose some language to Jen, or you certainly can close it, and condition subject to, that language, appearing in an order. I mean, I suppose you could close it because ultimately Jen has to propose the orders to you. And you can discuss the language that I send her at that time.
Thank you. I've had
when do you meet with Norwell again? I think you just said it, but I
I
missed
don't
it.
believe, Jen, I don't believe that we've filed with the Norwell Commission. Jeff, am I correct with that?
I'm not actually sure, to be honest.
I'm pretty positive we have not. There's multiple components to this project, right? We had to go to the zoning board to get the land divided because there's less than 100 feet of frontage on one of the lots. And then we had the town of Norwell sign an A&R plan to create the lot in Norwell. And then we have to have a common driveway approval for the portion of the the common portion of the driveway is entirely located in Norwell. So Norwell would be the issuing authority, and that's in process. That application's been submitted. So after we're done here, we would be filing with the Town of Norwell Conservation Commission for the work that is jurisdictional to that commission. And again, I mean, I know that this land is partially in Scituate, partially in Norwell, and you're looking at the Norwell side, but there is a fairly substantial amount of a gravel driveway that is going to be replaced and vegetated as part of this project. And I think that it makes sense to give us a little credit on that. But
well, there's two gravel driveways that are getting removed and revegetated, but there's now a paved driveway that's getting constructed.
Not paved.
Well,
It is-
it's
it is
only paved from the street. It's paved from the street.
It's paved from the street in
yeah,
about
up a certain
100 feet.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's actually the area that's being paved is probably 2/3 of what you're removing.
Right.
50% are removing. So
Right. I'm looking at the area within the 50-foot buffer strip in the town of Norwell that's green on the top. That is going to disappear and is going to be replaced by a smaller area within the 50-foot buffer strip in Norwell. I'm sorry, in Scituate. Right? And a good portion of that already exists. So I guess that's kind of how I'm seeing this. Like, if we are really truly looking at this as a whole, and I get it, like, you're really thinking about the area where you're putting a house. So maybe I'm going off track, but I just wanted to point that out, that it seems to me like you're removing a portion of a driveway that's in the 50-foot, which is greater than the amount of driveway you're putting in the 50-foot in Scituate. That's just my point.
Oh. It's a plus.
And then as far as the remaining thing, then we would have to go to the town of Scituate for planning board for an A&R plan endorsement. And then once that's done, I believe at that juncture, we can establish access and look to decide about the house that's going to be constructed on lot 2, which might be chosen by a buyer of lot 2, who would probably prefer to design his or her own home as opposed to us designing it for them at this early stage, which is why it's not being proposed presently.
Which makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
It's just tricky to permit a project that,
Isn't
isn't going anywhere, right?
And
we
I've
can't see it.
and I've recognized that, and that's why I'm more than happy to propose some language that I think tries to capture the essence of what you're looking to have done.
And I think that sounds good. Our next meeting is July 22nd. And somewhere in my email, I have July 16th on my mind for something in Norwell, a meeting in Norwell.
It would not be this.
It would not be this.
No, I do not think. I mean, Jeff, I'm sorry, Jeff is filling in for Greg tonight. Greg is running the show. And I'm virtually certain that we have not yet filed in Cohasset.
Either way, I've shared all of Art's information and our information with Norwell. So
that's wonderful. Yep.
They've seen all of this. They know that report. And I think that would kind of give us a chance to make sure we're given the same orders, or you know what I mean? In the same, we're not like double asking for anything.
Yeah. No, agreed.
So a lot's been said by me, by others. Any members want to add anything before we move on here? Richard?
No, I'm good.
Penny?
Good.
Jen?
All good.
Brendan?
I'm good.
Eric?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
You don't know.
Well, no, there's some moving pieces here. That's for sure.
It's just, I think the part of the problem is, right? I mean, either we are looking at it as a whole and we're looking at Norwell's side and we're looking at the Scituate side, or we're just looking at what's happening on the Scituate side. And then that's sort of a different situation. Because like, just because the gravel driveway taper north of the new paved section that's going in, that's tearing down trees, is, the same more than what's going in on Scituate, it's still a net negative if we're looking at it from the whole, right? I mean, if we're
that's the
just
point.
talking about yeah, no, I know. It's just like, that's what makes this situation so challenging. But I do want to say that I appreciate, the willingness to work on the orders. I think that that's really important. And I'm glad that there is a dialogue, a productive dialogue moving forward. But it's just a very challenging situation, I think, for all of us to wrap our heads around.
Well, it wasn't easy for us either.
It looks a little
Sure.
Been a lot of head scratching on this one.
All right. So the question is, do we wait with some stuff from Jeff, or do we want to close and just try to wrap it into the orders that we can? Jen, how do you want to do it? You're the one that's going to have to administer all that.
I am leaning towards close an issue situation, so I'd rather continue to the next one, but then have things more lined up to close an issue. So if we get to a point where we do want to add more trees, we can put those on the plan.
All right, well, let's see what Jeff can come up with.
Yeah, let me work with Jeff Hassett. Let's continue the meeting. All right. Let me work with Jeff to find a location that might be appropriate. He's already sending me text messages as we speak about possible areas. And we'll file a revised plan with and maybe that plan will actually be jurisdictional right now in the town of Scituate, somewhere in the area of the septic system or something like that. And then we won't have to worry about the conundrum of coming up with language otherwise at the time of the house. But
can't wait to hear from it. Okay, so let's get
it. Yeah.
Penny, you want to make
so I make a motion to continue 165 Summer Street to July 22nd.
Okay. A second.
I'll second that.
From Eric, all in favor. Richard?
Yep.
Jen?
Yep.
Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Jeff, aren't you glad you pulled that short straw, huh?
Which Jeff?
Both of us.
Well, Jeff Hassett,
I'm still here. I'm here on another one.
No, Jeff Hassett was not even supposed to be doing this, except this
That's okay. I don't mind. I've got a couple of projects on tonight.
Slow boat to China. Okay. What do we got? 15 Musquashkett Pond.
Yep.
Jen, I'm going to mute myself. You can unmute me for the Lighthouse Road one.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff. On July 1st, 2024, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the notice of intent application for Timothy and Laura Fox for work related to the construction of an addition location 15 Musquashkett Ave. Scituate abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website. Okay.
And
I'm back
got Jeff
for one more
Hassett.
project here. So this property is about a half acre in size. It has a BVW on the opposite side of the road, shown in blue, 50-foot buffer in red, the 100-foot buffer in green. And the property is also in a FEMA AE elevation 13. So the work we're here for is an addition on the rear of the house. You can see a portion of that addition is within the footprint of the existing porch. It's called out to be constructed on a concrete foundation with a crawl space at grade at elevation 6.9, and it will be equipped with 2 flood vents as well. We are proposing a 12-inch mulch stock around that work. So this addition does not exceed more than 50% the value of the home. And with the addition being on the opposite side of the house from the wetland, it really can't have any adverse impact on the wetland. And it's built FEMA compliant with the flood vents and the crawl space elevated. So thank you. That's back to you.
Thank you. Jen?
There was no DEP comments on this one. Long as it's flood compliant with, they're doing the vents. I wasn't totally sure if any trees or anything are coming down. I didn't go back behind the property. But if any are, we would want to know before they're taken down.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any that are coming down, but if it does come up, I'll let the contractor know to reach out to you.
All right. So let's see. Jen Foley, this is getting close to your hood.
Close. It is close. No, I don't think I have anything.
Okay. Brendan,
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Eric,
No, I'm all set for right now. Thanks.
okay. Richard,
Good.
I was just trying to really kill Penny and have her go last.
Kill her.
Penny?
I'm dead. Easy peasy. This is a good one. Well,
Oh. All right. Do we have anybody in the audience?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, I'm fine with this.
okay.
That just jumped us ahead a little bit.
Yeah, so
Take
I'll
a
make
motion.
Motion to close.
About a second.
I'll second that.
Wish they
From
were all
that
the
was from
same.
Brendan. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Jeff.
Thank you.
Where are we here?
Lighthouse. I think.
You are right on, Penny. On July 1st, 2024, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the notice of intent application of John Harrington for work related to the demolition and reconstruction of a single-family home at location 39 Lighthouse Road. Scituate abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information on how to access the virtual meetings available on the website.
And we have Caroline Reese from Merrill Engineering.
Good evening, Carol.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, for the record, Caroline Reese, Merrill Engineer and Land Surveyors. I'm joined tonight by Attorney Greg DeLisi, who'll be representing, and the homeowners may be listening in. We are presenting a residential project to raise and replace the house at 39 Lighthouse Road. The new structure will be built on piles. The existing one is on a concrete foundation, and it will be flood compliant with the first floor at elevation 16.3. Real briefly for orientation, this is just at the beginning of Cedar Point as you enter, very close to the beginning about here. It's about 7,500 square feet in size. The existing lot has a single family dwelling, which is here in gray, front porch, a solid concrete patio in the rear, and a pervious paver driveway on the right side, and a gravel driveway on the left side with parking underneath the dwelling. There for resource areas, we have wetlands flagged in the very rear of the triangular portion of the lot. Can everyone see the back here, small area, salt marsh? And then across the street, we couldn't flag it because it's on private property. That salt pond, the house with the pond underneath it, is across the street. And using aerial mapping, we estimate the 50-foot buffer to that is right in the middle of Lighthouse Road, pretty much. And the 100-foot buffer from that resource area would cross into the lot. And the lot is also in flood zone AE, elevation 15. So with all that, the owners propose to raise and replace the existing house. The footprint generally lies over the existing footprint and concrete patio. The front deck, there's an existing front deck, pervious, will be replaced, and a rear pervious deck will be added, as well as this kind of side front deck. The work results in a decrease in impervious area. They were mindful of conservation requirements, but they're decreasing the impervious area based on the roof by about 80 square feet. And then if you look at ground coverage, it's decreasing by about 1,200 square feet. With that, that's about it. It's a tight lot, so we're just making it flood compliant, raising the dwelling, and I think it resulting in an overall improvement of conditions. I don't know if Jeff has anything to add to it at this point.
No, I don't.
Okay. Jen Smith, you want to?
Yes, so it's good that they're going up on piles. Hopefully all of the piles are without footings. I mean, the salt marsh, I know it's flagged based on vegetation. But the area is a coastal area, so it's good that it's going on piles. They were kind of right where it's dune or barrier beach kind of meets right here. The area they want to keep that's currently the slab for the garage, if I'm understanding correctly, it looks to me like it's going to be removed when they are constructing the new house. So I'm not sure whether that should go back as impervious or not, or maybe some other kind of crushed material. And then also just that normally we don't condition lattice underneath the house. We want it to stay open so everything can flow, water, cobble material, everything can move.
If I may comment, I think the intention is try to keep that concrete pad. The edge of the piles may abut it. It is the one parking area on site. Maybe making some repairs to the concrete, but as I understand, that's the intention. And we did propose vertical slots around the structure. It creates a nicer appearance, adds a little I don't know, cohesiveness to the dwelling, consistent with other houses in the neighborhood. We did do a calculation for spacing in between vertical slots, which is kind of provided in the bottom right corner of the site plan. We just used the FEMA requirements for flood vents and made sure we had adequate spacing. I'm not sure if the lattice is a newer requirement, but I think what we're proposing is consistent with the area, but if I guess I'd like to hear some input on that.
Okay. Jen, do you want to speak some more to that, or we can move to members?
No, I mean, mostly for storm damage prevention. It all usually gets washed away, and that there is also the pervious paver area on the right side of the house also for a driveway.
Carolyn, you're only going up, correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to make sure, the elevation of the foundation right now is at 12.4 feet, and we're the first floor elevation of the proposed reconstructed dwelling would be 4 feet higher than that approximately.
Yeah, 16.3, yes.
Okay.
Your take.
All right, I know sometimes it's not necessarily relevant for conservation purposes, but to the extent, you know, that folks in the audience are interested, it's not as steep as some other dwellings might be in the area. So
Again, balancing a super tall vertical structure with what's needed for flood compliancy, I believe, is what the architect was saying.
Yep.
Because it's a small area.
Okay.
Half of the the one thing I'm seeing is that half of the garage slab
Yes,
is actually not jurisdictional. Am I right about that?
correct. About half, correct.
Okay.
Well, it's
I
all
mean,
in the floodplain.
It's all in
Yeah,
the floodplain, and it's whether it's the barrier beach dune line kind of come together there. So the whole site
I'm
is
just judging,
jurisdictional.
yeah, I'm just judging by the plan, that's all.
But I understand that it's already there and that everything's going up on piles around it. So we're talking about keeping something that's existing. If it's going to be removed, it would be good if it came back as a pervious surface.
Mhm.
Impervious surface.
Yeah.
Oh, pervious.
Pervious, like
Okay.
crushed stone,
Yeah,
crushed
gotcha.
shell.
Yep. Sorry. Okay.
Carolyn, the area of the garage that's being kept, correct me if I'm wrong, above it will be living space, am I right? Such that there will definitely be a roof covering that area?
Correct. Yeah, the roof perimeter is the area in yellow, basically.
Thank you.
Well, there's no garage. You're just using the footprint. The house is going above it. You're putting piles in.
Yeah.
You just might be able to park underneath, but
Park
it's not
underneath on the
a
path.
garage like, enclosed. Okay.
But there's a concrete
Well,
pad.
proposing the vertical slots around the perimeter.
Mhm.
It's just that the plan makes a distinction between roof coverage and ground coverage. If you're going by roof coverage, you're technically increasing the impervious area by, or decreasing it only, by 80 square feet, which is still a decrease. But if you're going by ground coverage, which I think that the commission should be going by as opposed to roof coverage, you're decreasing it by 1,214 square feet.
Mhm. And that assumes that concrete pad is remaining for the garage.
Yeah, of
So that
course.
includes that in full. The rear concrete patio pad of the existing house will be removed.
Okay. I'm gonna switch to members. Penny?
Yeah, I believe I heard them say slats around the bottom of the house, and I'm absolutely 150% in opposition of that. It creates nothing but trouble down the road. It's a no as far as I'm concerned. We want everything to flow as free as possible, and the slats are the worst that you can put there. Other than that, it's a huge house you're putting in, good for you. But is my big thing with this. If I heard correctly, that they want to put slats around the pilings. I'm totally against that. For the flow of water. Moving on.
Okay. Richard?
Yeah, I agree with Penny. They look great. I can understand why people like them until there's a storm and then they're all in the ocean and it just creates havoc for every other property around. So I agree with Penny. Otherwise, I think it's a big improvement.
Okay. Jen?
Same as Richard.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, same as everybody else about the slats. Also, I'm not for keeping that garage pad. I think you could just park on gravel. You got a beautiful brick paver parking area. So I think the slab should go.
Okay. All right.
Can't force that one.
Eric?
Yeah, I agree with the slats, as all the other commission members have already stated. Ideally, the reduction of impervious surface, regardless of whether or not it's under roof, relative to the garage pad, would be removed. I understand the desire to keep it. So with that, I'm wondering if, given we're working in a coastal dune resource area, that we have a proposed planting plan to help mitigate some of the remaining impervious concrete square footage underneath the residential proposed house, maybe out back by the proposed deck. I don't know if that's something that others would be in favor of or think is worthy, but as sort of a compromise with slab being left. Just a thought.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one? Any hands up?
May I ask another question?
Sure.
If there's no audience participation, okay. I know the owners, I believe, really like the slats. They are sized. I understand everyone's against it, and I wasn't sure why, but they are sized to allow flood flow. I don't know if we could make the gaps wider, or if that's just a complete no for the town of Scituate moving forward. I didn't see any policy, but we did size them. And the second thing, I know mitigation, it's a very tight lot, hard to grow stuff, but we are decreasing impervious. The house was sized with that in mind. It's not a big lot, it's not a big house. It's not as big as a lot in the neighborhood. And by going up on piles, letting the area underneath just naturally vegetate as it may with whatever weeds, we felt like that's mitigation. We can try, it's hard growing around here, and we could think of that, but I don't know, the owner, I think if it's would be considered, would like to keep some form of slats or larger spacing, and the pad, if possible, provides a protected area for a car to park. You know, with the elements and snow and stuff, it's nice to kind of not have to.
Carolyn, can you this guidance that you have about the spacing of the slats, could you just explain that? Is that a building, is that a FEMA guidance? What is that?
So what we did is, because there isn't a standard for the town or so, we took the FEMA guidelines for flood vents in the flood zone, and they require for square footage of enclosure, an equal amount of square inch in openings. So if you're enclosing 600 square feet, it's generally 600 square inches of openings below the flood zone. And so there's a little calculation on the bottom, just showing how the vertical slots with the 1/4 inch spacing provide much more than required as FEMA for flow through. And it is a developed area, so we're just saying water flow through. We could widen those spaces to a 1/2 inch or whatever. The spacing required based on the calculation of the vertical sections is you know, a very small amount compared to the flat. So it's relative to the vertical flat size spacing versus flat size fence size, I'd say, or plank size, whatever you want to call it. But based on the FEMA calculation for flood vents, there's more than adequate for flood flow through.
And I guess I would want to just kind of throw out there to the commission that because I know this issue of slats is something that the homeowner really would like, and that's why he went through the effort of requiring her to size them properly. But if the commission would be more comfortable, I think that, you know, to keep the slats, we would be happy to trade off the concrete garage floor and just remove that. I'm wondering what the commission's thoughts are on that. These slats, I understand they're problematic, but I think that oftentimes they're problematic when they're not properly sized. And in this particular case, we have somebody who's actually trying to be mindful, and it actually is similar to many of the homes out there. So just wondering, I wanted to throw that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Frank,
Richard?
A couple of things I wonder based on what Jeff said. First of all, when we have permitted some fences in areas in Humrock and in other parts of town where it's been coastal, we have allowed them as long as they had 2 or 3 inches of space underneath. And that's one thing. And number two, might be helpful if we had some pictures of these type of slats. We might learn something from it, or we may just stick to our guns and say we can't do it. But we might learn something from seeing what they're talking about in terms of spacing for these kinds of slats. It's possible we might learn something, or it's possible we'll just stick to what we're thinking. But I don't think it would hurt to have pictures.
Thanks. Thank you, Richard.
Frank?
Yes, Penny.
Yes, it's not just the spacing. What people don't seem to understand, when we have a real northeaster come in, those slats, whatever you want to call them, they end up all over the place. They're detrimental to the environment. They just are a nightmare. We have learned over the years that it isn't just the flow of the water. It's if we get a good storm, they're not going to make it. And they end up all over the place. So it's a nightmare. And I'm just really, really adamant on that.
And it's not just water moving, it's
no,
cobble
it's
moving
everything.
also.
Right, yes, Jen, you're 100% right.
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
I'll
can
be
you
good.
repeat that? I couldn't hear what Jen said. It's what moving?
Cobble.
It's not just
It's because
water.
Penny's
There's
talking at the
cobble
same time.
in that, in some of these areas also, there's material that needs to be able to move through and shift. I mean, I'm not zoomed in enough on the plan to see. I don't know how far it is from under, I think you said 14 feet, or maybe you said 16 feet. I mean, my concern is not just being a few inches off the ground, but being a few feet off the ground. So I could wrap my head around kind of finishing off the bottom of the house, like skirting coming down a couple feet, but something that's many feet off the ground.
Can I I understand how you're trying to somehow quantify this, but I think the flood vents work so differently, to be quite honest, that comparison doesn't really help. I mean, in a poured concrete foundation or block foundation, the flood vents are there to make it so that the water can equalize inside and out, and the square inches give enough room so as the water rises up around the house, water can flow in and equalize inside the foundation as outside. So it really doesn't help to compare those two. I understand how you're trying to come up with some logic for that, but I think the point that's been made by Jen, Penny, Richard, whatever, is that it's more water and cobble and debris and everything else that get washed around in a storm, and it just wipes out this skirting. And now the skirting today is mostly PVC. It's not even wood. A lot of that winds up in the harbor, or it winds up in the marsh or something. It's not decomposing, and it just makes for a mess for years and years. And so I think Jen made a good point. If there was enough space
He said, say it respectfully.
from the ground up to the bottom of that water, debris and stuff could flow underneath that may be something that we could think about. I know that a lot of people do like to have a little bit of skirting or enclosure, but we really don't want to have that situation where that's down to the ground and then the area
down to the ground, right?
So
No, we assumed 6 inches.
well, I
of the
think
ground.
we're looking for a lot more than 6 inches.
We're looking for feet. So
as far as can just on, and I think it's important for the commission members to remember, right now, this is an existing home that's on a foundation, if I'm right?
Mhm. It is.
So the foundation is going to be removed and the house is going to be elevated, which is a real plus to in our minds, FEMA, the whole bit. So that's a positive. And I think we've always kind of looked at that when people are willing to do this and go through that expense um, as good mitigation for a project. And it'd be nice to see some vegetation around it because there isn't much out there. It's also a hard place to grow things without winding up building up plant boxes or other things which then become an obstruction. So it's a little hard to get folks to do much in there if they can get a lawn or something back that can get established. But the fact that they're removing an obstacle, the foundation and water can now flow through and getting a house out of harm's way, I think we've always sort of looked at that as the people are kind of the homeowners are going through some pretty substantial expense to get to that point. Granted it benefits them as well, but it's a benefit to the town, to the neighborhood to do that. But I do think that we're seeing just too many issues with the skirting on these houses and all the things that come along with it. As far as the pavement is concerned, or the concrete under the house, we try not to have that happen anymore. When everything's been removed, we've been looking at allowing some pavers or possibly some other surface if you need someplace hard to park on. But we're trying to eliminate impervious areas, and even though you can take the calculation and say, well, we have a whole foundation that's gone and now we only have a bunch of piles, that whole house still essentially stops rain or anything from coming through. It can flow underneath it and it can certainly recharge and dissipate more that way. But the whole goal was to sort of try to eliminate as much impervious area as possible. So those are the kind of things we're looking for and why we're looking for them. If that helps.
I guess to respond, I appreciate that. I believe the homeowner would be, the priority is the skirting around the house. We could make it, there are 4-inch wide boards proposed, maybe 1-inch spacing. That's, 25%. I don't know what that height is, but it is lawn behind, it's road in front. It's there's a lot of development around it regarding movement of material. I know that Cedar Point, and I live in Scituate too, but and I know what happens, but generally it's developed with lawn around it and road on the other side, and dwelling with that similar skirting. I think would it be amenable as another mitigation effort to replace that concrete pad with pervious pavers if there's a way to maintain some skirting?
I think you've heard the comments on the skirting and what the commission's thinking about. It's got to be up in the air a decent amount to make it effective. Having it up off the ground 6 inches or 8 inches
2 feet. I mean, I'm hoping we could come up with something and close it. I don't mean to be back and forth, but I just don't see a guideline for it, and I see what's in the neighborhood.
Well, we've been trying to work through some of that, but we've kind of been hammering that home for the last year or two, that this has just been an issue. So, I mean, I think it's got to be more, like as Jen said, in a number of feet than inches.
Would you propose that? I don't know. I was saying 2 feet. I don't know where to go, but I think 2 feet with 1-inch spacing would allow.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean,
Because-
I don't have any science for that, but it seems like,
I mean, as I said,
the
you're
reason but think about it, the reason these houses are elevated to this elevation now is because we're looking at water that could easily exceed a couple of feet over that ground,
Mhm,
right? I mean, that's the whole reason that now this house is at 16
mhm.
Yeah.
is because of the level that we can anticipate the water to be at.
Mhm.
And then what happens, when it's a really bad storm, to Penny's point, like that, a nor'easter or some other type of storm, is all kinds of things are moving around, and they're battering rams, and they're smashing things, and we're just trying to minimize that sort of thing.
Yeah, I understand. Understood. I'm just wondering if a foot or two would let, the small objects pass, smaller, and if you're getting something larger than a couple of feet, it's probably like Blizzard of 78, and not, or, a severe, where there'll be a lot of structure,
Frank,
Right, well, that's what we're trying to protect is some of that storm damage.
Mhm.
We want to not have so much of that while we're creating a new house, and it's like you're starting from the beginning.
Correct, yeah. But would a foot or two give you that? It would allow.
well, I guess, you know what, Carolyn, basically I think that it's reasonable to be at 18 inches. I understand what your comments are, and I think it probably is reasonable to limit it to 18 inches. If the commission is okay with that, just to get past this issue, we'd be happy to agree to that.
Can I ask one more question? I'm just trying to sort out this plan a little bit and looking at, because I'm looking at the impervious area or ground coverage.
Mhm.
I mean, so I'm seeing a house that was sort of L-shaped, and now how much more square footage of the house itself, not regardless of impervious area, how many square feet are in this new house as opposed to the old house? Do we have that information?
Goodness,
For the footprint, Frank, you're trading that concrete patio for living space. You see the concrete patio
Yeah,
that's.
I'm saying the existing dwelling is 1,260. This is gross floor area. Is this a single family home? Because,
It's a single family home, but it's
So-
going from a 1-story to a 2-story.
all right, but I'm saying the square footage of the
Mhm.
existing home versus the first floor square footage of the new home. Well, can you give me those numbers?
oh, I don't have them in front of me. It's about, I'm so sorry. We are going to zoning and we did submit that to zoning. I think, do I have it on the plan? Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
is
I thought
on
it
the
was going from
plan. I'm
1,200 to
sorry.
2,600.
Gross floor area is on the plan in the bottom right
Yeah,
corner.
but that's existing. Right now, it's a single story house.
Right, 1260, it's going to 2645. That includes what zoning defines as habitable attic space, which.
Right, but
probably
that doesn't really help me with,
I guess I'm not understanding. the question.
Your question, Frank, is limited to the house, right? So it's
to the structure.
you're excluding the concrete pad.
For right now, I'm just
Part of
looking,
the
I'm
house.
looking at when I look at this plan and I see what's shaded and what I think is the existing house, I see
Mhm.
the house covering less area, a little bit less area on the Lighthouse Road side,
Mhm.
but I see it expanding pretty substantially at the rear of the house.
Correct, over concrete patio. Well, we could backtrack into it. The concrete patio, solid concrete patio.
Okay, so that gets
is
removed.
That gets removed and that's 350 square feet.
Okay,
So
all
the
right, that's,
house would be, plus, what is it, the impervious area?
About
plus
1,700.
maybe-
It's going from about 1,400 to about 1,700 square feet.
okay. Good, thank you.
As far as the house is concerned, but
I
that does not mean impervious area.
Yeah, yep, I get
Ground
it.
coverage, but it's you swap out ground for roof, right?
Okay.
Right, well, the
Yep.
proposed is 1,400, and so the existing dwelling would be less.
Okay,
ballpark.
so you need to check those calculations again because your calculation says that your existing house is 1,400 square feet and that your proposed house.
Existing impervious, so that includes the concrete pad.
Well, the first
Yeah,
one
but
was a
you
gross
have
floor.
existing dwelling, 1,280 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you have a proposed dwelling, which is going to increase that both in footprint and in height, number of floors.
In
So
height,
what
yeah.
Frank is asking is to compare your existing footprint for the house, exclusive of the concrete patio,
That's about
proposed
1,100.
to your proposed footprint.
Okay.
Am I right about that, Frank?
That would be helpful.
Yeah, we can get that. We'll get that to
I
you.
can certainly get that. I could guess at it, but I can get
Okay.
exact numbers.
All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to add to this at this time?
So I just wanted to come back and just ask about the 18 inches on the slat, on the skirting. If we can limit it to 18 inches above the surface of the ground. That's something that the homeowner would like. Mindful of mindful of what we're doing here, which is removing a house from the floodplain entirely and allowing water to flow through and infiltrate underneath the house, which is a tremendous plus for this commission.
Yep.
No.
Are we trying to close this?
I don't think we're looking for any changes. I mean, other than, you know, what our conditions might be contrary to what they have on their plan, but.
All right, so. I mean, if we've gotten all the information we have and there's nothing more to discuss, can we go ahead and close?
Well, do we want to, I mean,
I'm not going.
I get the sense from everybody, we're not supporting slats or skirting underneath the house.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, I think what the applicant's asking is will they consider something with if the skirting was elevated or not? So in the orders, you can pick the number.
because I mean, my thoughts were the other way. Like it would only be like 2 feet under the house, like just enough to have a transition.
That would be kind of like a mini skirt, Jen.
Yes, it would be a mini skirt. New term.
I don't know what that would do for me.
I mean, just because, like you said, the whole point is for it to be open. That's why the house goes up so high.
Yeah.
And then encouraging the other areas to, you know, in the slab.
I wouldn't be excited about that if that were my house.
Gotcha.
But,
okay.
But I. Well,
if
it's
the
8:30, I want to get off the
yeah,
mic
look,
here.
Frank, if the commission is not yet there yet on the request on this question of the skirt being maybe 18 inches off the ground as opposed to going to the ground, then I would ask for a continuance to give us an opportunity maybe to specifically look at this particular issue, as it is an important issue for the homeowner.
Okay. All right. So make a motion. What can we continue to?
Jen,
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to assume July 22nd.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to continue until July 22nd.
That's Penny.
I'll second that.
That's Richard. All in favor, Jen? We might have lost Jen already. Brendan?
Yes, and can I get video back?
You lost video?
Yeah, I had to restart my computer.
Oh, we got to make you a co-host. All right, Josh, can you make him a co-host?
It's done.
It's
And
done.
Eric?
Okay. All right.
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Carolyn.
I appreciate it. Appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
I have to step away for 2 minutes. If anybody wants to chat about something, Jen can. Try
Sure.
to control that. Maybe you can vote orders or something. I'll be right back.
Okay. We can do orders. We are not doing 181 Edward Foster. They
thing.
sent us a request to continue that to the next meeting. So the rest of them you could vote, assuming we have 4 people. Yeah.
But did you go down and discuss it with them, our orders 181 with Edward Foster? Jen?
Yes, we did meet with them.
Okay. I don't want to give in there. Okay, I make a motion that we accept the orders of condition as written for 347 Central Ave, 54 Manlot Road, 6 Rebecca, 181 Turner, 3 Rebecca, those are together. And 91 Oceanside Drive as written.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, who's gonna ask us if we want to say yes?
Yeah, Frank stepped aside. So if Brendan and Eric want to say their vote.
Yes.
And I say yes as well.
Okay. What's this minor modification amendment?
We can wait on Frank for that one. I would say we could do minutes.
Okay, why? Oh, I make a motion, we accept the minutes for 3, 4, and 6/17.
We're
As
getting
writ-
caught up.
I know, as written. So I second it, please.
Yep.
Second.
Second, Richard.
And Brendan says yes?
Yes, and Eric, yes.
Good.
Okay. So we're all set there.
And then certificate of compliance is 236 Gannett Road is a old septic plan that was finished a while ago.
Yeah.
And 162 Central Ave is a more recent one. That one they went up and we did confirm everything was pervious underneath the house as it was on the plan. So that one's okay also.
Okay, good. Frank is back.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Where are we at?
Minor modifications or minor mod / amendment requests.
For 285 Central. And
Can we go
30
through the orders? You guys are all set with
Yeah,
that?
we're all set with all
Awesome.
that.
Thank you. And what about the Driftway Park? I'm sorry.
No, we haven't done that yet.
We haven't gotten to that yet. That
Okay.
was the woman that came in here a couple weeks ago, she wrote up a plan for what she wants to do to clean the tables there.
Yep.
And then paint a few of them. She doesn't think she would paint all of them, but she mentioned 3 or 4, whatever made sense. She sent a suggestion for the type of paint. She did some research on what would be appropriate to use in that area. And in her write-up, she mentioned some of her concerns as far as like somebody would need to unlatch the gate so she could get her truck there. Her truck would have water so she could power wash it. She had a question about where she could, she got into some of the details where she could fill up the water if she needed to do that. So I guess it was if her plan was okay, and I don't know if somebody maybe wants to meet with her and talk to her.
Where would she park her truck there?
She said there's a gate there that
Yeah.
if the gate was unlocked, she could back her truck up and, in her truck, she could bring her power washer and she's got a rain barrel of water from her house to use as at least the first round of water to clean some of the tables.
Oh,
But that would be permission from someone else to unlock the gate and then permission to refill water up maybe at the golf course and then to paint a couple checkerboards on some of the tables.
Well, if she's willing to go through all that effort, we ought to try to help her. with some of that. I don't even know who has the key to that, but we can find out from DPW because we should
Mhm.
have access to that. We've got to do some maintenance there too. Might still be a key in Josh's desk or something. Carol used to keep track of those keys, but I don't think we've had to open the thing in years, or we haven't had to deal with it.
No.
Mhm.
And but we can find out either it's got to be some public
How many
safety.
cables are up there, Frank? I thought there were only 4.
That's what I'm remembering, Penny. But
Yeah.
in terms of getting more water, I guess we'd have to ask if the golf course would let her fill up or something. We should be able to help her out there. Okay. Well, let's
All
try
right,
to
yeah,
work with her on that, see what we could do.
okay. All right, I can let her know. We're generally okay with it. I'm not sure what I'm letting her know as a next step though, but
Well, it'll come together.
okay.
Sorry.
All right,
All
okay,
right,
sounds good.
sorry. Minor modifications.
Just
What do we need?
this thing.
All right, so minor modification for 285 Central was the docks, and it's a change in the language to one of the conditions, which I've sent you, so you,
Yeah.
or I guess we could go down to it, but
It seemed to me like with that one, when they talked about using the mats, that we wanted the mats to be used when they were on top of the marsh. I think that was the intent. We had
Yeah.
gotten some feedback from the guy driving the piles, and he had seen some stuff that National Grid was using and thought it was a really good measure to do that. But I think the question was, are these mats needed where it's just the cobble? And the idea was that they're not needed. They might not even work well there because it's uneven and you'd wind up dealing with other issues. And then just let them smooth that out a little bit after they drove on it, I think was what they were looking for.
right, so just use the mats in the intertidal zone if it happens to be
Over the
cobbly in that
grass.
area.
Yep.
The bigger question though is logistically how to change this, since these are recorded already. So just like,
So do we have to actually hold a hearing to amend that?
I mean, that would make it super official because then they would get orders they could record. Which again, we could do that at the next one, close it and issue it all at the next one, and then they have something to record.
To amend that, Jen, do we have to notify abutters and
If it's a minor modification, Frank, I believe no, and if it is a substantial modification, and that's in your discretion, then yes.
To me, it's a minor. We're not changing the outcome of the project. It's just a means and methods that need to get resolved.
So I just want to make sure you're getting orders that are changed correctly, like, just because they've been recorded. So I don't want that to get confused years down the road.
I suppose that's a good point.
Because it's
put some language that says that they supersede prior orders, because you could just record the whole thing all over again, right? Or you could just
I don't know. Can you record it all over again?
You could do a 1-page document that references just the mat condition and amends or modifies that one paragraph or that one sentence of the order, and then we could just record that. And that way you're not superseding anything, you're just that one narrow spot you're modifying. That would be I believe would be perfectly fine.
Is it okay if I ask for a clarification since I'm just
Yeah,
gonna be the
yeah.
one? Yeah,
Sorry.
okay. So Jeff, just because I'm gonna be ultimately the one doing the paperwork, would, since if the commission is accepting this as a minor mod, do you think I could just do it as a corrected? That way the DEP is at least made aware of the change in from their records.
Yeah, we would.
I could just do it as a corrected.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
you could. And because it's minor, I probably could do the small amount of diligence to see whether it's necessary to record it, right? Because ultimately you're going to be asked to do a discharge of the order once the work is completed.
Yeah.
And if you vote a minor modification, I think that if there's an issue that arises during the work, this commission is enforcing the amended order. It's not, I'm not, I guess what I'm saying is because it's so insignificant, I'm not convinced it even needs to be filed or recorded, Jen.
Well, okay, I mean, just make sure this works for you, because it
Yeah,
sounds to me like
yeah.
it's significant enough that the
Right.
change needs to happen in order to not have to
Yeah.
there's reasons for it.
Yeah.
So
But it also sounds like you guys want to notify DEP, and I think that's a good idea. So I'm thinking out loud, and maybe I could propose to you like a paragraph that does amend it. And I think what was the term that you used, Josh?
Corrected.
Corrected.
So
Amends and corrects.
Yeah. So in moments where we issue a permit and there might be a typo or some incorrection or some small change on the actual permit itself, I'll send a corrected version to DEP.
Yeah.
I just reminder that these were recorded though. So then the recorded version doesn't have that correction.
Right. All right, so we're not at a public hearing per se. That's so if you would maybe vote on the modification and then and then allow me to do a little diligence, Jen, and I'll get back to you if it's something, because what you're bringing up is in my best interest or my client's best interest to avoid confusion. Do just a little research because it's a land court property, and they're much more difficult to deal with when it comes to recording. I'll do that small amount of diligence and shoot you an email with what my conclusion is on it. And then however you guys want to handle it from there to effectuate this minor modification, I would defer at that point.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it gets the job done. Okay.
Yes, I thank you so much. And same with Josh with DEP. I think DEP should be aware of the fact that, that it's being modified.
Yep, just crossing T's, dotting I's.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'll probably shoot Greg DeCisa an email on this one, Jen.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean he wasn't in today, and whoever I spoke with, I didn't get into what the address was. I was just talking about orders having been recorded, and it wasn't an easy answer to make sure that the wording was correct going forward, so that everybody would be working on the same words.
My opinion is to keep it simple from the standpoint of if you're going to record something, rather than recording a whole new document, just record a small little thing that shows how it's modified. And the question is how do we get that? What is acceptable to the land court? And then from Josh's standpoint, if you guys want to send a corrected version of the order to DEP so that they have a single document with the correction, I don't see that's a problem because it's true to the facts, right?
Can we, if there's any other working that out, we don't need to do all that tonight, right?
Okay.
It's 8:45.
We'll discuss those the night next one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll thank you for that, and I'll get something over to you, Jen.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a good night.
Yeah. Thank you all.
What's 37 Collier, Jen?
All right. So 37 Collier, they want to add to their plan across the front of the house. I'm blanking on the word, not maybe it's cobblestone, but stonework that goes across the front that a lot of the homes maybe have over in that area, like a little bit of a pull off the road.
An apron.
An
Yep.
apron, thank you, but have it go, you know, not just by the driveway, kind of continue it across the front. So I have their request. I don't like, you know, have it on a site plan. I told them I would probably be asking for that, but we figured we'd at least start with getting your input on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they've done the pavers yet for what's on the plan for the driveway and for their patio area. They kind of wanted to make sure they had all of this all together.
Yeah, do it all at once.
If you don't mind, I mean, I don't personally don't see an issue with this apron.
Well, they're just
But-
giving
but-
up
but-
grass area, right?
Is it grass now?
I don't know. But
I
it's
mean,
on their property,
If
not
it is, if
town.
it is grass, then they're giving that up. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
These guys have pretty much just hardened this whole goddamn site.
Okay, right. So, is there another, either if they really want it here, is there somewhere else to do less? Or just do the apron by the driveway? Or maybe we need to see it on a plan.
I guess it would, I mean, it's up to, we could pass this around. I think maybe half of us have been more familiar with this site, and then we've had a couple of site visits out there, but
Wait a minute. Uh, it is 37 is oh boy.
37 is the
The
large square house, right?
Yes, it's the one, it's got a wall around it.
It's a very contemporary home. It's the,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So-
it's the shoebox, yep.
well, they may
Oh,
not
I
appreciate
see.
that.
No, well, hey, listen, my father was an architect. I grew up in a screwball house in town. And I love it. I did
Okay.
back
All right,
in the
let's-
50s.
All right.
All right, let's keep going here.
All right,
Um,
but no, Frank, there isn't grass there yet. There's only dirt. So
But I guess my point is that the site's become really hardened.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
Like no vegetation at all?
no,
I can't visualize any.
no, there isn't any. But it's the house takes up 7/8 of the property area.
And then we
Um,
have the other issue of the stone that got placed on the outside of the,
Josh, I think if you scroll down, I might have stuck the plan on the very last page. Nope, not that one. Go up to. Maybe, yeah. It's a scanned in version, so it's not great. But just to show, and I can't even read it. I can't even read the one, that there is definitely a lot of hard surface.
Yeah.
So I do think there's some area to be, I'm trying to read it better. Landscaping area, just like if you're looking at the road, just over the wall in front of that patio, around there, that white area is supposed to be landscaped. So not stone. And it's beach cobbly towards the ocean side of things. So not, you know, there's no plants.
Jen, I might just
Mhm.
suggest that we try to set up maybe we have to have a site meeting, or let's look
Okay.
this thing over closer and then meet with these folks and really see where some of
Yeah,
this
and they're
is
not
gone.
on the call anymore, so I think that's a great idea. I'll
Yep.
ask them to do a site meeting. Sounds like a
Okay.
good idea.
All right.
The views in there.
Certificate of compliance.
We already did
We did
those.
all that. We're
good.
enforcement, 31 Surfside and 18 Oliver have filed their RDA, so we'll hear them at the next one. And then I was gonna say for 43 Surfside, they put some gates up on the wall, and 115 Grove has expired their orders and not responded to a previous letter about finishing their plantings. And I was just going to send a letter, but in the letter, I was going to say attend a meeting, like not just call the office, but
Yeah.
just come
Can
to
we
this.
say,
come
can
to
we
this
give them
meeting.
a date? Like if they don't,
Yes.
if we don't hear from them by such and such, we'll be issuing an enforcement and.
Yes, so say I'm going to right, like you'll be on the agenda for August 5th. Otherwise, we'll take enforcement action.
Yep, that was a mess this winter. It was a lot of rain and it impacts the neighbor and it needs to get squared away. So,
And
Okay.
we'll send Craig down.
okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's and then in general, we should talk about open space plans for some of these properties, but I know we're getting late, so
Okay.
it'd be good to like the Border Street, what's the to talk about that.
All right.
I do
Well,
have a specific request that came in that I just want to touch on quickly, if that's okay for Appleton.
Very quick.
Sally had emailed regarding water catchment, and she submitted a plan. I have not responded to her, but she was proposing 2 freestanding 10 by 20 roofs that would catch water. She had a calculation of some kind saying that 2 of them she could catch between 800 and 900 gallons of water in a month, assuming average monthly rainfall is 3.5 inches. That would reduce their pressure to us for a well. She said no sonotubes or anything like that. It would be as temporary of a structure as possible. She did also send an image that I can send off to you, Jen, for this illustration to sort of distribute out. But I just wanted to bring it up to the commission before I replied to her in any capacity, because she was proposing that she bring it up to us, but I figured I would preface everything by just bringing it up here.
do you think they'll work, Eric?
I think so. It's similar to something that Brendan, I think you had suggested with gutters, or was it Jen when we were standing at Appleton going around the whole perimeter, just sort of
Yeah, that was
catching
Jen.
water. Yeah, that was Jen. Okay.
But I did do a quick, because I was curious about the gutter thing, like 300 linear feet of gutters would catch something like 60 gallons for every inch of rain.
So if that was 300 feet, 60 gallons for every inch, and that was by 3, that would be what? 180 gallons.
An inch.
210 gallons.
But
So that's
these things,
interesting.
these roofs are they kind of like canvases but draw the water in, and then there's a barrel in the middle of it?
What it looks like to me that she sent, she did a SketchUp model of it. It would be 6 posts, looks like 4 by 4 with a corrugated metal type roof at a slight angle that would be caught into a gutter that would feed those big 250 gallon totes that are already on site. It seemed like a pretty good idea. Of course, the requirement would be rainfall, but any catchment of water would be better than no catchment of water. And if they're willing to propose this and get it done, she did also drop in there maybe a scout project, but I mean, who knows what their ability is. But if they're willing to build it themselves, then they'd solve their own water issue without having to go through us for the well, at least solve the problem in the interim.
Just the thing that we have to be thoughtful of, Eric, is we fall with that CPC, we have, the, conservation restrictions.
Yep.
Penny,
Yeah.
any thought on that?
I imagine Scott would be all right with that, but
Maybe we just get a little bit more information. We could
Yeah.
shoot him something.
Yeah,
So
and then
we
shoot
have
it
to be
down to
thoughtful of
Scott.
any kind of like, they'll allow, like,
structures.
they'd
yeah.
allow us a shed or something, but, we're not supposed to like put up a building. There's certain things
Yeah.
that we can and can't do with our conservation restrictions on property purchased by CPC funds. So just
I would wonder
maybe-
if suggesting something in the similar size to those,
the tractors,
the pig tractor, in terms of height and width and stuff like that. Something that's already on site, maybe even trying to repurpose something like what's already there. I don't know the condition of those in terms of being able to move them, but maybe they don't have to.
right. Yeah. Well, anything that could help them move it along as long as they seem reasonably.
I really don't see Scott having an issue or the CR having an issue. But if Eric, if you could just give me a little write-up about it, and I could pass it on down to Scott just to get the okay before they go too far.
Yeah, I'll just forward you the email that Sally sent me because she described
Okay.
it probably in the
No,
most true
that'd be
senses.
good. And then, I'd hate for them to do a lot of work and then Scott come and say, not allowed, okay?
Yeah, Eric, I like the image that you sent, and it has some good info on it too.
Okay, cool. Excellent.
Yeah, if you could pass that around, be super. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Just before 9, can we,
Go home.
my apologies, but my alertness is waning.
Yeah.
Mine went a long time ago. I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I have a
I'll
second.
second that emotion, that motion. Thank you. That up.
Motion.
Every time. Never
Jeez.
do it again.
Always a good one.
All in favor, Richard. He's all right.
I think he already left.
He's gone.
Can we
God,
might
are
not
we gonna be able to adjourn?
I don't know. We could be here all night.
Yeah, we got
Uh,
4 of us.
Brendan,
Yes.
Yes.
or Eric and Frank, yes. Good.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Sorry for the drawn out meeting. Have a nice evening.
Well,
You
one
too.
of those.
Good night.
Goodbye.
Have a good night.